A BBC correspondent has been deported from Turkey after being arrested on Wednesday. The BBC said Mark Lowen was accused of being a threat to public order. They said they would take up the matter with Turkish authorities. Now, Turkey said Lowen was deported because he didn't have proper accreditation. Lowen had been reporting on the largest anti-government protests in Turkey seen in years. They began after authorities jailed the main rival of Turkish President Recep Tayip Erdogan. Well, for more on working as a journalist in Turkey, I want to bring in our Turkey correspondent, Dorian Jones. Dorian, how would you describe the mood among your fellow journalists in Turkey right now?
Well, I think there's a great deal of shock today. The expulsion, the deportation of the BBC correspondent Mark Lowen, who has spent 5 years reporting in Turkey and was very well known in the country, both among the foreign journalist community, but also the wider Turkish media. And the fact that he was deported and the manner of it, being held for 17 hours before being thrown out of the country on the offence of threatening public disorder, which is a serious offence, I think has caused a great deal of shock, not only among the foreign media, but also the wider Turkish media as well, given the fact that this is being seen as being sending a chilling message to all those reporting on this unrest. And it comes on the same day that several independent news TV stations have faced unprecedented sanctions. One has been banned from broadcasting for 10 days, and several others have seen their several programs on their network being banned and facing very large fines over the coverage of this unrest. So these two things together is seen as sending a message to the whole of the media, both foreign media and domestic, over the covering of this unrest. And it is a chilling message.
And Dorian, you've been reporting from Turkey for many years. We've spoken before about the risks of doing your job in Turkey and also about the threats coming from the current administration, the current government, for a free press, free media. But do you have a sense, though, that we are looking at a new level of threat now in Turkey?
Well, that's very difficult to say. I mean, reporting in Turkey has had its serious ups and downs. At one point, Turkey was the worst jailer of journalists in the world. Many of those journalists have now subsequently been released. But still, undoubtedly, it is a very difficult job covering Turkey, especially for the independent media. There is the risk of being arrested. Still, journalists are being detained. In fact, this latest covering of this latest unrest has seen a number of journalists being arrested in dawn raids. Several of them are still being kept in jail on remand, facing very serious charges. But so it is difficult. Whether it is the most difficult that I've faced in the decades reporting here, that's difficult to say. But it has to be said that there is this feeling going forward that things are going to get a lot more difficult in the coming days ahead after the events of today.
And Dorian, we just want to make clear to our viewers, I mean, we discussed this before we went to air. You don't feel like your personal safety is in any danger by talking about this on the air, right?
Well, it's the problem facing both domestic and foreign journalists here. It's really unclear what is acceptable reporting and what is unacceptable for the Turkish authorities. There are no guidelines given on how to cover these protests, what is considered unacceptable. So in many ways, you're walking a tightrope, but in the dark. You don't know what is right, what is the limit of reporting and what isn't. So it's really very difficult. So basically, you don't know. And I think the fact that someone as prominent as the BBC correspondent Mark Lowen being deported, I think has ratcheted up the bar in terms of the concerns about reporting in this country.
President Erdogan, what do you think his next steps will be as people continue taking to the streets to protest? I mean, you've seen a lot of it in Istanbul with the mayor of Istanbul being arrested.
I think there is an expectation that we could be possibly facing an end game. I think Erdogan is very determined to bring these protests to an end as soon as possible, not only because of the political threat he faces, but the financial one as well. Financial markets have been hit very hard last week, and the fear is that if the unrest continues, again, the markets could be under pressure and Turkey will face a financial and a political crisis at the same time. And what I've been witnessing, certainly today, is a lot more police presence. Here where I am is a traditional centre of opposition. Many police everywhere, civilian police as well as ordinary police, large numbers of armoured cars on the streets as well. So I think they are ratcheting up the pressure. A number of student protests have been held in several parts of the city and they've been crushed very quickly. So I think that there is this turning up of the pressure, and also we're heading to a long holiday. Erdogan's announced a 9-day holiday. That means a lot of students will have to return home because the dormitories are closed. This possibly gives them a window of opportunity to crack down further in the coming days ahead.
Do you think this crackdown is so severe this time, Dorian, because this protest movement is the strongest that Erdogan has had to contend with so far? I mean, is that an accurate assessment?
Well, I think the most difficult one was in 2013, the so-called Gezi protest, which was the closest that Erdogan faced to being ousted from power. But I think the concern for Erdogan is this protest was heading in that direction, because it wasn't just in Turkey's main cities, it was all across Turkey, in towns and as well as provincial cities, and even in places which are traditional strongholds for Erdogan. And that has always been the fear of Erdogan, a nationwide protest. And that was the way that this protest was heading. Will it continue that way? It's unclear. It seems that the authorities want to stop that in its tracks in the coming days.
Okay, our Dorian Jones in Istanbul. Dorian, we certainly appreciate your reporting, and we wish we didn't have to say it, but we will say it. Please, when you're reporting, please stay safe. Thank you.